Hello, Dan Alasso here with History for Today. And today I'm going to talk about both history and technology. And maybe I'm going to embarrass myself by talking about this before talking with Mark Robertson, who I suspect is way ahead of me in thinking about these issues. But I'm thinking about Obsidian and my OER textbook that I'm using with my students in a variety of different classes, including my environmental history class and my modern world class and my US history too. And it occurs to me that the textbooks, the OERs, could actually each be their own vault. And that would maybe give the students a different experience of the text and also of note-taking. To back up a bit, I have been spending some time in the previous weekend importing many of the reading notes that I've taken about books in my field, my reading for comps in my PhD program, for example, into Obsidian and then formatting them. I've started, as I said, by moving a bunch of my notes from a variety of backup disks that I've accumulated over time, and then doing this quick look at them and double bracketing the ideas that I wanted to return to. This creates pages for each of the ideas, but interestingly, only one such page for each. That is, if I highlight the same term, let's say something like Columbian exchange, in a variety of different places, I won't end up with a bunch of pages called Columbian exchange, which is good. What I'll get instead is a single page that I can link with all the mentions of Columbian exchange elsewhere that I think are important. And over time, of course, those links will accumulate and I'll begin to see where concentrations exist. I could hardly believe that I hadn't created a page for the term Columbian exchange yet. So I went ahead and did it. I wasn't sure exactly how I could search the full graph to find the term and then have it appear highlighted in the overall graph rather than just popping over into a separate graph. That would be helpful as it would allow me to search and find out where these things exist in the graph and where the links go. In this case, it wasn't that difficult for me to find Columbian exchange by following the links. But then again, my graph isn't that big yet. At the end of that weekend-long process, I have a graph with a lot more empty purple nodes than populated yellow ones. And I imagine this will change over time as I add thoughts and information and links to this graph. I think I'll definitely create this Obsidian-based text experience, at least for my upper-level courses this spring. It will probably be hugely valuable to the students who are going to be writing research papers and also the other ones in my environmental history course who are going to be adding chapters to the OER textbook. Maybe it makes sense to wait a semester before rolling it out to the survey students, although I'm tempted to just go forward. It might be very useful in the HighFlex courses that I'm going to teach this semester to have a hub for discussion. And then as I was thinking about that, I started wondering, do I want each of the students to have a different one or to work on a shared one? And wondering how that would even work. And then it occurred to me I could host it in an accessible place, but a relatively private place, which would be a safe work environment for the students. For example, in Bemidji State University's team folder in Office 365. How well, I wondered, does Obsidian handle embedded media? And then I started playing around with it a little bit, and it seems pretty good. I Googled it actually initially, and I came up with a help file from Obsidian Publish. So I guess there are elements built in there already. One of the things that the help file said was that links are not shared across vaults, which makes sense. But of course, I had to think about that and the consequences of that a little bit. I imagine that if I make the links in my own vault and then copy the files to another vault, then the links that can still resolve within that new vault may be saved, and I'll try that out. So maybe my writing workflow should actually be to make my OERs in my personal vault where they have access to all of the information that I've accumulated, and then clone just the textbook files and the appropriate links to a new vault. That would mean, of course, that I would have to keep track of everything that I wanted to be in the new book vault that I would export. And I could achieve this, I think, with a combination of tagging and making sure that major elements like chapters are all close to each other. So a file naming convention where everything for the US2 textbook gets US2 in front of its file name. And then all those files would be in one place in my file explorer where I could find them and grab them and take them all to the new vault. I wonder, as I'm pondering all of this, whether the Open Textbook Library has ever considered allowing an Obsidian vault to be a textbook. There are interesting implications here. First, the entire book, of course, becomes editable by the student. Of course, when you think about it, this is not that dissimilar from there being HTML versions of Pressbooks or of ebooks like the American Yop available online. Theoretically, anybody could grab that, alter it, and republish it. In a sense, that's what I've done already with my remix of the American Yop for my US2 course. I think that's part of this new sharing mentality that is embodied kind of in the Creative Commons project, that your words belong to the world once they leave your mouth in a performance or once they leave your desktop in the form of some type of document. But there are ways to control this a bit. One could put the textbook vault, as I said, in a limited access place. And then the interactions that students had with it will belong to the students of that particular class. As I'm thinking about this, I'm also thinking that it would probably make sense and it'd probably be very important for me to do daily backups of that vault, just in case a student user did something wrong and blew something up. I would also have to train students to put their initials on the notes that they write so that they can be findable and ultimately gradable within the vault. I could create identities for them with their initials and they could double bracket their notes so that I could find them in the graph. The incentive to do this, of course, and to remember to do it every time would be that would be how they would get graded. Now you can view PDFs in the vault and you can option command click to open them in a separate view and to take notes on them in the previous window. But sometimes the font sizes in the documents tend to get extremely small and hard to read. I could also just make the PDFs viewable in the course shell the way I normally do and have the students open them and annotate them with hypothesis. So although I'm still just exploring and learning about this, I've discovered that there is a lot to like in Obsidian. And I'm not even sure if I found all of the goodies yet. These are things that I will continue exploring and I'll continue reporting on, but I hope that was interesting for now. So thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time.